All right, we're back at it again with another Final Boss deck profile. What's your name and what'd you do?
Name's Alexander Vences, and we bubbled day 2 at Team YCS Las Vegas.
All right, and what deck were you playing?
Full commit go second cash.
All right, let's get into the deck profile.
Sounds good. So let's just start off with the classic, all the Kashtiras. We've got three, and 3 of the main 3, just full sets.
Okay.
All these cards are insane. If you open any combination of Unicorn, Fenrir with Rise Heart, you've pretty much just got full combo plus some on top of that. I know a lot of people were watching Couch play the deck, and just the Omega boards he was making with double Shangri is just part of having the nuts. So
Yep.
absolutely want to max out on all those. And then for the other caches, we've just got one of each.
How'd you like the one each of each extender?
I almost wanted to play a second one of either of them. I think these cards are also just insane to open. Tier limit in the grind game, if you have a Rise Heart set up, just kind of turbo mills your opponent even more. I've definitely had 2 games where that came up, where just kind of recycling this with Theosis and then just constantly making my opponent mill, just kind of out banishing their resources on that and just not letting them really have anything to draw for follow-up, came up a lot. And Scareclaw Kashtira is just, its effect is crazy. I think people forget about that. This is one of the easiest Baguska outs, which I was a little worried of going into this event. I know a lot of people are testing the format, so I know Baguska was a big thing on my mind. So absolutely, this is one of the most important ones. But both just have the merit of being able to banish a cash card. So you just get to set up really cool plays with Theosis or even Big Bang. If you just hard open it and need to use it, you don't really have a way to banish it. You can always set yourself up for some nice, neat little combo extenders with Birth and everything on there. So going forward, might play an extra one of each, but for now, this definitely functioned as good as I wanted it to, absolutely. So let's go ahead, put these up, go to the next part. We'll just start off with all the cash cards. Like I said, this is just pure cash, just committing going second. So pretty much maxing on everything. We've got Terra, 3 Field, 3 Theosis, and we've got 3 Birth. So,
And how'd you, once again, same question, how did you like it all maxed out in the spell department?
absolutely loved it. Like, once again, just opening any, just multiples of either, just any of these is just insane. If you open Birth, Unicorn, you can always just get Theosis. I mean, it just, giving you a piece that you already have just helps you go even further beyond. If you do decide to do some more heavy playing into Nib, but very high ceiling, like locking 5 zones on that. I absolutely love just maxing out on all of the spells and all the monsters other than the 2 extenders. I thought this was great. This card is insane in the grind game. Anytime I had Birth up and my opponents either didn't, if it was the mirror, or if we kind of got into an even game state, but they left Birth up, this card's absolutely won games going forward, because just having that free special summon matters so much for you just getting whatever plays you want off, as well as just being able to normal summon a 7 without tributing as well. Is just, I mean, it's basically just 2 free bodies on its own. The spell effect to banish didn't come up the absolute most, just because most times I feel like I had a Rise Heart or my opponent had a Rise Heart set up, so the graveyards are just kind of gone anyway. But it is something to keep in mind for the branded matchup. I did duel against 2 branded during Swiss, and that definitely absolutely came up when they didn't have Lost, or if they just didn't think to change something on the resolution of Lost, where I can't respond. You just get them for like 3 cards that might matter. That just puts them in an awkward position, and as long as your opponent's in an awkward position, you're up.
Yep.
So that's kind of the theory on there.
Amen on that.
So absolutely loved all the cash ratios like this. I don't think I would change any of this going forward. I know some people were playing 2 Birth. I feel most people are going to be playing 3 going forward. It's just way too good. Let's go ahead and pack up. So last cash card, I just wanted to go ahead and put it in here right now since it's just the one. Am just on 1 Big Bang. I know some people, decent amount of people were on the Ogre and Preparations. Seeing it in action, it almost made me wish that I had played it. However, I think just being a little bit more conservative if you need to, as well as, my deck just absolutely being a committed go second deck. The one big bag was fine. Last thing I wanted to do was draw like preparations, for example, or even big bang. Drawing it, this isn't the worst because this can always get you an extra body off of one of your cash XCs. But if you draw preparations, it's definitely it's a little awkward. Or just like if you get ogre, I mean, he'll get you one of them. But I think this was fine for this event specifically. Going forward, you got to respect Gimmick Puppet a lot more with the branded matchup. So. Definitely probably going to make some changes in regards to how to play the deck going forward, but at least for this event, I thought this was completely fine, and it honestly worked out. I saw it several rounds, to be completely honest with you. I did just open this card a lot, and even when I opened it, once again, the extenders are just MVPs. You can just still kind of play normal cash. If you see multiple cash cards or even Prosperity Dig 6, you should see one. You can always just grab an extender off of Fenrir if you really need to after you've made a couple plays, and just go ahead and banish this with the extenders, and then you still just get to loop a guy and make your plays even further. So, yeah, one big bang, and that's all we got for the cash traps.
Cool.
So now for the rest of the deck, and now this is where it gets fun. So, like I mentioned, anytime I could call the die roll, or won the die roll or could call, I'm going second. So, 3 Lava Golem, 3 Ash. Absolutely, this card way too good for right now. Just hits everything. There's not a single deck that I think this doesn't hit right now. Lava Golem also just insane. If you're just committing second, once again, you just almost every deck is pretty much ending on 2. And the thing with Lava Golem is that even if they're ending on 1 body, say they had a subpar board or something. I played two Sword Soul matchups. One game he ended on only like Chen Ying, and then the other game he ended on only Baron and then set like 3. That's still kind of fine because once again we're just hard committing second, so we've got a lot of things for it. So moving these boys up going forward, so if they do have those things, you can't use Lava Golem. Thrust, this card is insane. Overperformed, absolutely. At worst, this card is getting you terraforming, and to say that is one of the craziest things I've ever said in my life. Like this just being an extra copy of terraforming, extra copy of field spell. If you do bait something, you can get tactics, for example, or you could get prosperity. That's also a really good one.
Yep.
Dig for 6 for more blowout cards. Book of Eclipse, right? Going second on that. This card just turns off a lot of boards. And then if you do manage to bait something, or if the Arise Heart proc, because it's mandatory, once again, Thrust can go ahead and just grab us and evenly matched. So, I mean, I absolutely just loved seeing any of these cards as well going second. I mean, it was just, this is what the deck was geared towards. The deck was geared towards just committing full on second. No board right now. We don't really have the hardest of negate formats right now. If anything, it's, the better players will just be able to pilot their decks to have more of a grind game, but you're just trying to reduce that board state to as even as possible, and then just, once again, set up Birth with Unicorn Loop. I mean, it has a nice little resource loop with Big Bang and Theosis that you can definitely get going with the Rise Heart. I feel like as long as if you thrust evenly, most people, they're fighting an uphill battle, and they have to either top deck Insane, or just play out of their life to catch up. And once again, if they're behind, the deck's doing what it's supposed to do. So that was main deck. We're 41, so this was actually the 41st card right there. Was the 1 Tactics.
Love to see it.
Debate, it was contention on 2 Eclipse, 1 Talent, because I do like 40. I love to see it, as DB Grinder says, but I just felt that Book of Eclipse, once again, I was definitely a little worried about the cash matchup, or at least the mirror. They could set up, interruptions. There were definitely a lot of people that were on the build that just played around Nib. So they would just make a 3-mana Rise Heart, so it's 4th summon, and then just play a bunch of Backrow. So in that regard, I was like, it's not the best because they're not locking your zones. So this was really important for freeing up your zones. But even in that, like, you still get to hold this as an interruption. Like, at worst case scenario, you can always set this card. If it baits Ash, you basically got a card out of their hand for free. If it does what it's supposed to do, you're almost killing them the next turn for the most part. I mean, this deck can clear boards so easily. But once again, if evenly goes through, I mean, you're just playing from up top the hill. So love these ratios for this event. I don't think I would have changed anything going into it. I know we learned about the Gimmick Puppet stuff a little little soon to it. I know a lot of people were trying to get that. Thankfully, I didn't have to play against that, but I know one of our friends was, and that absolutely tears this deck up. So, 41 in the main. I think we'll stick with that for now. Going forward, like I said, there's definitely going to have to be some changes for how the format shapes up with branded, but for this event specifically right here, I definitely loved all of these ratios. I thought it performed incredibly well. All right, let's go ahead and let's go over the... We'll go extra deck first. So very standard start. So we've got 2 Shangri-Era and then 2 Arise Heart. I know some people were playing a 3rd Era. I thought 2/2 was still just very good, very standard. I never was in a position where I felt that I needed a 3rd. Once again, I feel like a lot of the, at least the mirrors that I played, they kind of just became either Zeus beatdowns or the game was over. Nothing really ever developed to the point where you would get into a grind game where you felt you needed another one. It was just all kind of back and forth on Zeusing. And speaking of Zeus, gotta have 2. It's just way too important. This card's just way too good, especially in any XZ base strategy. And just the fact that Diablosis exists, you know, you got to play 2 of your most important cards. So for sure, this is basically an honorary Kashtira card on its own. But yep, 2 on these. Let's see. Going forward, let's see. We got the 1-ofs. So Diablosis going first. He's just the standard cookie cutter combo. Sometimes if you were really ahead, if you broke a board going second, or if you even lead your opponents, I did it twice where, you know, they're going to have, if it's a full board, I mean, they could already have 4 face down banished, right? So then by the time you Rise Heart and you get another 3, and then you do this guy, they're going to banish 8 face down on resolution, and that's 16. You know, the next turn, it snowballs really fast if he gets to just exist. It's one of those things where the whole theory of this deck was to just try to even out your opponent to almost nothing and then just kind of mollywop it. I didn't go first that much, to be completely honest with you, but like I said, I did use him a couple times going second, but not too much. So next we've got Dark Armed.
Talk about him a little bit. How did this guy do for you?
This card, I would say, it's very close to saying it overperformed. I did not expect this card to do as much as it really did this weekend. A lot of people just read it and did not realize that this card is not a once per turn or even hard once per turn. It just, as many materials as it has, it can blast. So definitely one of the best cards that I did for just disassembling boards. I mean, his only restriction is he can't attack, but at the end of the day, that really doesn't matter. At best, you can always just put a Zeus on top of him. Or I mean, at worst, you can put a Zeus on top of him. At best, he does his job, and you just get to do a bunch of other things. Just disassemble a board is really what you want to do with him. And he also, so he not only does he destroy a card, he banishes a card from your graveyard, which in cash is not really that big of a downgrade, because once again, if you have like a Big Bang in the grave for whatever reason, or Theosis, he just lets you set up, you know, doing a material, banishing one of your cash monsters, and then just banishing a Theosis, once again, just setting up a little mini grind on that. So you're always having follow-up, or even getting follow-up or an extender if you want, once again, like Tear Limit Kashtira or Scareclaw. He just kind of sculpts your graveyard and your banished for you while also disassembling a board. So I think the worst thing about him is that he targets, but we're back in a format without Elf, so not the scariest thing. So these 2 guys, absolutely loved this guy. Really good going first. Used a couple times going second. So we got Flare Metal and then Big Eye to wrap up the Xyz. Big Eye's insane. It's almost nothing to be said there. This is one of the craziest cards ever printed. I'm glad he's back in the format. I stole a Baron, 2 Mirror Jades, a Chichao. I mean, this dude you just get to do whatever you want. It's it's crazy. This guy just exists, and as long as you bait anything, any interactions, you know, you're just like, give me whatever you got, and all of a sudden you're just playing a different game. Flare Metal was very interesting. This card almost got cut. It's theory-wise, I mean, it's like if I wanted a card for, you know, close to the end of the game or to wrap it up, I just really felt that he didn't make the cut. But, you know, I still kept him in just for that reason. You know, doing burn damage for activating cards puts your opponent on a timer. But as the rounds progressed, Once again, going hard committing going second, I just felt he had less a spot in this extra deck. But one other thing I came to realize is if you can't OTK your opponent, a lot of the times, the cash monsters are really big. They're almost all like over 2K for the most part. If you're just swinging and you don't have to like evenly match or anything, you just actually disassemble their board, you play through it, you're leaving them with usually less than 2,000 life points. Now, if you do that, a lot of times I just made a flare metal. You'd have an Arise Heart, and then I just make a flare metal and I say go. And you put them on 2 to 3 activations at best. And then at that point, if they got it, they got it. It's definitely, that was the format. I feel like if you just had it, you had it. I know there's a lot going on with Nib and, other hand traps and like the books, for example. But for the most part, a lot of decks are having to proc effects before they really get to what matters. If you have Field Spell up, this guy's just huge. He's already 28, which is crazy. But Field Spell, Planet just makes this whole deck play extremely differently as well. So I feel like he has to just stay in the extra deck. He was just very good for the reason of, like, even if you don't kill, you don't even have to just do Zeus control. You can just make a flare metal, and he just exists, and you put them on, all right, I might just die. How deep am I willing to go for this? But so that's the rest of the Xyz lineup in the extra deck. Now for more situational, Tooling Grebo, I just, Ibli's a card. Ibli's, you just had to have this in case they Diablosis. If you have one, that goes away. You're just kind of, you have to have Birth and a Cash. I just didn't want to put myself on that. I'd rather put myself on at least making a Trap Negate, so it could maybe trade with like an Imperm. I mean, at best case scenario, you do have Birth and a thing. You just make Donner. If you have a normal summon with it, you can just Donner Blast something. But even at worst, like, you have a Trap Negate. There was one time where my opponent gave me Ibli. It was against Sword Soul. He gave me Ibli. I just made this, and I don't think he really thought that through, because he set 2 Backrow, and I knew one of them was absolutely the Icarus attack for worms. So he just kind of he had to blast the Ibli, or he had to blast the Link Grebo as soon as it could do something. So it is what it is. I feel like that's just necessary. Goliath, prosperity every day. Just put it on your Rise Heart. It never came up for me, the destruction effect, but I feel like it's just better to be protected than to have nothing on there. Just gives it an extra layer in case people are maybe doing, Raigeki, Dark Hole, things like that. Donner, as previously mentioned, this card can clear up Link Grebo, can clear up Ibli, really just anything. Sometimes you can even, if you just have the gas for it, you can always Big Eye like a problem, something that you can't tribute summon, or if you needed a normal summon, Donner's your best friend before you make Kashtira. Admittedly, I only summoned Donner, I believe, twice the whole tournament, but every single time it did exactly what it needed to do. I just needed to clear a thing. And then we just got through there and got open zones, so we could special summon another guy for free. So that's the Link lineup. And then lastly, we were on Baron. This was BLS before the tournament. This was the Link 3 BLS. Switched it out for Baron last second. I just felt the Baron was really good for playing around Nib. But throughout the tournament, more often than not, anytime I had an Ash in hand and had a free normal summon, one, I could either just already play around Nib by just doing the aforementioned 3-mat Rise Heart and have, like, an Eclipse or an Ash in hand and just, interaction, right? Like, something that if you're smart with it, your opponent shouldn't just kill you. But there was a couple times where I was like, if I normal summon this Ash, it could just die. If the opponent knows what you're, it's, if you normal summon an Ash, something's up, right? Like, they should know that they should know that you're making Baron. So if they just pop it right then and there, like, yeah, you can say that you 1-for-1 in interaction, but you also just got rid of, a pretty good hand trap this format, at least. Like, branded fusion is just insane. Hitting a Kashtira is always fine. That's always good in my book. Every single rogue deck Ash does a thing too. So going forward, this is realistically going to be BLS again. I feel the BLS Link just does a bit more for the Labyrinth matchup. That is thankfully something I didn't have to play this event, but I did test against it before, and the BLS Link just definitely puts them a bit more on, you got to see skill drain, or this is about to be a kind of a tough hill battle. So Going forward, I'd probably change that, but it was fine. I mean, it was a fine option. If anything, more often than not, this just was prosperity. So that is the 15 that we chose to play there.
All right, and then to jump into the side deck.
All right, so like I said, pretty much every game that I got to choose, I went second. However, there were several times when, you know, you evenly sum one game one, you lava golem evenly sum one. Most people they made me go first. I'm just not even gonna lie. So Ibli, I feel this card's just way too good. In the Kashtira matchup, you know, once again, they have to commit a normal.
And now to get into the side deck.
So Ibli, absolutely one of the best going first side cards I feel you can do. Most people, if I just had Lava Golem evenly or some combination to it, like I mentioned, Thrust overperformed absolutely this weekend. More often than not, they did just make me go first, which I, prepared for. You definitely want to Ibli. If you know, do your normal line, you should be able to see their extra deck and then see if they just have the Lingaribo for it. So you kind of get to see into the future regardless with this card. Just see a little bit, like, it's never bad. Branded, you put them on have a Bestial or it's going to do things. Cash, once again, it just puts them in the awkward position where they have to sack a normal or if they play the Lingaribo, hopefully they do play two. But you should be able to see a little bit into the future as long as you're making your normal plays. Absolutely love this card. I feel like it's definitely a staple going forward. Going past that, we have to respect Backrow. So,
Yep.
Twin Twisters, once again, Labyrinth is a beast of a matchup. Big welcome as well as just welcome. They just set up this crazy resource loop where they can just, if they get access to D barrier, they just reset D barrier a million times, or just skill drain up and they just are big monsters. So definitely got to respect them. I was worried about Runic a little bit as well because I know some of the top players were testing with Runic, kind of going through that. And I know this does much less to that deck, but I'd still want to see it, right? It still just wastes one of their quick plays at worst. So they just make the Hugin and Protect. But otherwise, anytime I sided this card and I saw it, it's only really like 4 times, it did its job. It just either blew up a floodgate or just existed, and that was fine. Blew up a field spell. Now, we've got these 3. Absolutely. So once again, more back row, but thrust targets matter so much more in the grind game. Anytime I was able to grab these 2 off thrust, it just was a giant shift in the game. You either bait something extremely important or the game was just over. It's incredibly powerful. Once again, thrust was just crazy. This is another just respecting back row or spell trap decks. Just really wanted to see it. There's a lot of times where this would still come in as a one of. Because once again, I mean, if you're playing 3 thrust, you kind of get to pick and choose what you want to do if you can bait something or if they just proc literally anything. An Ash, I know people were playing Lancia. Obviously, Nibiru is huge, so a lot of the trap decks were on that. So those definitely felt fair, but these cards felt extremely unfair. Just kind of getting to search those was crazy.
Absolutely.
Now, the incredible thrust target for going first, absolutely mandatory. D-barrier is crazy. This card is, anytime I saw this card, I just won. I feel like as it should be, but this felt like a very unfair card. Branded, you just get them on a branded fusion on this. They've not only wasted their out card on that, and they're really just not doing anything for the turn. Even against like the mirror, for example, you set up your turn 1 board, you can always, even if they do get you with something, you're just almost completely fine with just letting them do things and maybe even summon that first like Shangri-Era, or as soon as they're about to do it, D-Barrier is just very, very good for that. If they decide to try to break your board, you ultra punish them for making anything that isn't a Shangri-Era is pretty much how it goes. So this card's crazy. Hits pretty much everything except for the trap decks, but if it's any real combo deck, you just kind of win. And then the last, most important side card, Judgment. So
yeah, tell us about that real quick.
So this is kind of the 9 that go in for going first. I pretty much put these 9 in if I ever did go first. Or there was one game I did choose to go first, and this whole suite came in, and I saw both of these, and that's just. It was like both of these planted
An
and
actual
it was
FTK.
unicorn. Yeah, so it's like you just win, right? This card is way too pivotal for once again the books, just anything like evenly things that would blow you out because cash doesn't really have any hard negates. That's a reason Baron made it. And then eventually, I just never really felt that wasting an ash was that great for it. But this card is crazy, absolutely insane just to be able to say no to anything. Another thing I did a lot is if I did see this card, you have a rise up, you're going to play into thrust. I mean, he's mandatory as long as your opponent's trying to do things, he's going to activate. You just let them thrust and then you just judgment whatever they search off of it as well. I did that 3 times. They would search, one was a tactics, the other one was a change of heart. Don't really remember what the third one was, but it was the same thing. You always let the thrust resolve for the most part, and then you just get them with the no. And at that point, they should be on like a card or 2 left. And if they're real, then they're real. But you should still have a live Arise Heart. So, yeah, pretty insane.
Good luck to 'em.
And a lot of the lines that I was doing, I was adding the Big Bang to hand. So I wasn't just leaving that as material or doing the combo where you re-equip it as material from the banished, just because having a Rise, Judgment, and a Big Bang set, I mean, that's usually a lot. Even if they try to combo off or have a combo deck, Big Bang just puts in so much work. And once again, you're going to play into thrust with a Rise Heart, so Judgment just helps you 1,000,000% avoiding anything that they search or just any blowout cards that they have for you to make your game a lot worse on your end. I loved this side. I really wanted to play Lancia. I just couldn't really see a place to fit it, to be completely honest. All of these, I definitely wanted these for like the thrust of. This is way too pivotal going first. I just had to respect Backrow decks, and especially since I took the BLS link out, this had to be in here. Realistically, this was probably the Lancias. Going forward, once again, just have to kind of reevaluate how things are with the format, with Branded going around with that gimmick puppet stuff. This might end up being just like either a main deck card or just maybe even cut. Probably not, though. It just feels too good. Lava Golem might just get sided or relegated in the future, but going forward, this was pretty good. Maybe Anti-Spell finding its way in there, because Anti-Spell was also insane anytime it was used against me. So that's definitely a card you have to respect. And another reason why I played this. So instead of playing Anti-Spell, I just decided to, once again, you're just committing second. Game 1, if they have it, that's crazy. But post side, definitely going second. You still just want these as well. So other than that, that's the 15.
And so, very cool to kind of wrap it up. Have any shout-outs to give?
Oh, absolutely. Got to rep my teammates, Ira and Tony. Team Final Boss, as always. My homie Matt Ellis for top 16. He gives me all my branded testing. Just great guy, great player. So I learn a lot every time we play. Just everyone else that loaned me cards. Shout outs to Picante Trading Card Games here in North Carolina, best shop. But other than that, just appreciate anybody that played with me, helped me out with theory, things like that.
Yep, absolutely. It was a good time, and thanks for the profile.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yep.